So welcome all to yet another PTC Talks, where we are excited today by having Laszlo and Lars from Nanga Systems, where is a PTC partner who will have a session about expanding Codebeamer's horizon through customer solutions in the automotive industry. And my name is Torbjörn Peterson, and I'm the Alliance Manager for PTC in the Nordics. And we are running all these webinars on Fridays every week, same time. We also invite customers and partners for some inspiration on digital transformation to see what is possible and how to make things happen. And all the past webinars have also been recorded and are to be found on the registration site. The agenda for today is first a quick overview of PTC by my colleague Carl from the customer success team. And then Laszlo and Lars will run the show by introducing themselves, touch base on a few challenges, how to address these, and then explain some of the business outcomes. And at the end, we are also having a Q&A session. Please keep your questions to the end, or you can also put them in the chat and we will pick them up later on in the Q&A. So now over to you, Carl.
Thanks you, Torbjörn. So PTC is an international software company with headquarters based in Boston. We are developing software mainly for manufacturing companies since 1985. We offer tools for the digital transformation, such as CAD for design, PLM for managing data, IoT to connect products and manufacturing operations, and augmented reality to visualize and interact with the digital thread. To you, Lars.
So, thank you, Carl. Thank you, Torbjörn, for the introduction. I will do a brief overview of the agenda, introduce Nanga Systems, introduce the speakers first, so Laszlo and myself, then a few slides about Nanga Systems, and then we will jump to the main topic, Codebeamer use cases. I will explain a little bit more about the use cases just before Laszlo starts, and then like Carl and Torbjörn said, we have a Q&A session. So next slide, please. And one more. So the first one is our main speaker today is Laszlo Katona. He's a colleague of mine now for a bit more than 1 year at Nanga Systems. I'm very happy he joined Nanga Systems. And he's been working with Intland before, so he brings all the Intland experience and the Codebeamer experience to Nanga. And he lives in Budapest in Hungary, a very nice town, as you can see. But now it's my turn. So next slide, please. I also live in a very nice town, as you can see. It's Esslingen in Germany with my family and the 4 kids. So I'm a sales lead at Nanga Systems. Before that, I spent 5 or 11 years at MKS, the inventors of RVNS, so to speak. And then PTC, another 11 years. And since more than 1 year, I'm now with Nanga Systems. And dedicated to ALM and systems engineering, basically half of my life. Okay, next slide, please. So introduction, Nanga Systems. One more slide. Just the key facts, a few of them. We've got 5 locations by now. The last one that we founded was in Japan. There's a lot of ex-MKS people that joined us. So we have all that experience in ALM. It started with RVNS, now it's Codebeamer. Nanga has been founded in 2014. We're about 55, I think already 56 now, climbing towards 60 employees. And have about 350 customers from different industries. So next slide, please. What does Nanga Systems do? It's very important. We are full service providers. So we basically do everything from consulting, from the first idea of a customer through the software reselling and the support. And additionally, on top of all these services around the reselling and services side, we also do Nanga products. And I will show a bit about the Nanga products in the next slide. And most of it is based on a PTC portfolio. We have some other things around that to complete an R&D and a systems engineering infrastructure. But that's basically what we do with a team of roughly 60 people. So next slide, please. I've quickly touched the topic of Nanga products. Nanga products is something we develop ourselves. They're mainly add-ons to solutions that we resell. And they're in 3 areas. It's integration, it's usability, and it's administration. From an integration point, you can see, I won't read through all of those. We have a lot of historical add-ons for the windshield RVNS. We are looking, of course, to do that for the Codebeamer side too. Usability extensions to also RVNS mainly. And then one most important thing, I think, for this call is we have just completed a migrator for customers coming from windshield RVNS who want to move to Codebeamer. So it's a piece of software that we sell and it's services around that. So if there's any interest, just contact around this. And I think it will be a hot topic in the next few weeks and months coming for all of us. So next slide, please. And one more click. Yes. So this is, I mean, if you've looked at Codebeamer, you probably know this slide inside out. It's an ALM solution. It covers requirements, risk, and task management topics. And it supports and enables customers in many areas. It's collaboration, traceability for specific audits, for regulatory compliance. It's easy to configure, it's cloud ready, and has a great API also, a Swagger API, a very modern API, and pre-configured templates, for example, for different industries. What we're going to see today, and what Lars is going to talk about, is if these things are not enough, specific industries have use cases that you need to enhance the template, or you need to implement a different API. That's what Laszlo is going to talk about. So he's going to show use cases from customers that we have worked with in the past, and that we have developed add-ons, customizations on top of Codebeamer to satisfy their use cases. And these use cases today are specifically geared towards the automotive industry. So I think I set the stage for Laszlo. It's all yours.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Laszlo Katona, and as Lars mentioned, I will talk about some solutions that were developed by Nanga Systems to address specific needs, mostly needs of the automotive industry, but these can be used in any other industries as well, of course. We will start with custom APIs that we have developed. What is an API? API stands for Application Programmable or Programming Interface. It's a set of definitions and protocols for building and integrating application software. Codebeamer comes with REST and Swagger APIs, as Lars already mentioned. Both are fully documented in the Codebeamer knowledge base. It is important to mention that the REST API is still maintained. However, it's not further developed. The development is focused from the API perspective, is focused on the Swagger API. There is a Swagger editor, of course, available for Codebeamer, which is a great tool for you to get started with the Swagger API. You can try out the endpoints without using any specific applications, for example, Postman. You don't need it at all. You can try the endpoints directly on the web interface. It is important to mention, though, that both for REST API and Swagger API, you do need to have REST API user group permissions in Codebeamer. Otherwise, Codebeamer won't allow you to use the API, basically. Both the Swagger and REST APIs provide a wide variety of endpoints that we can use out of the box. Especially the Swagger API is constantly being extended out of the box. However, in some cases, we do need to have some custom tailoring to address very specific needs. The very first need is related to migration, specifically migration from Doors to Codebeamer. As players in the automotive industry, you might already you are familiar most likely with Doors. Doors is the big player from an ALM perspective in the automotive market. The thing is that Doors was being used by many now Codebeamer customers, but Intland now PTC understands that it's important to enable users to merge or to move from one existing system to Codebeamer or to another. And for this purpose, there is a built-in Doors bridge import functionality available in Codebeamer. But because Doors lacks some capabilities that Codebeamer already has, for example, test management capabilities were kind of addressed by a bunch of custom fields to store the requirement-related test activities, the outcomes, results. And this data is important even after the migration. However, not all these fields are necessary, and sometimes in the specific cases that we worked with, we've seen use cases where the tracker itself was created in Codebeamer with hundreds of additional fields that the users don't need, and on the graphical user interface, it causes a lot of problems. To address this, because from manual effort perspective, it would take up to 5-10 minutes to take care of a tracker, but we are talking about sometimes 100+ trackers in a project, and we have dozens and hundreds of projects, legacy projects moved into Codebeamer. So these 5-10 minutes add up over time. The solution for this was an API endpoint that hides all custom fields. So then the project admins can unhide or unveil only those fields that the project users actually need. So this way they just have to basically handle those fields that need to be displayed, and they can save a significant amount of time. Another way the other thing that helps project administrators very much, and in general the users, Codebeamer offers the ability to create custom views based on filters for the different trackers. This enables us to visualize or display the information in a tracker that we actually need and filter out the noise. The challenge here is that in previous Codebeamer versions, using the project template concept, project admins were able to pre-configure views, but the views were not taken over to the created projects. Fortunately, this has been addressed out of the box in the later Codebeamer versions, but the problem still remains in case of those views that were created after the project was created. There is a tracker inheritance that applies to the configuration between template and copied tracker. So the field updates are being inherited, but the views are not. How do we address this? Because again, we are talking about many views, hundreds of trackers, and it's not always about just the time, but also the precision to make sure that we do not make mistakes while setting up these filters. We have created as a solution a custom API endpoint that copies the views from one tracker to another, eliminating the need of manual effort. And again, it might save hours from the perspective of the project administrator. Another project administrator and tracker related thing is the organization of trackers. It's extremely helpful to organize the trackers in a hierarchical structure in the tracker browser. It helps the users in the end because they can collapse the nodes that they don't want to see. It's making the overview of the tracker structure a lot more simple. This structure can be set up for the templates, and as we create new projects from the templates, the structure will be kept. However, over time, the initial tracker configuration might change, and we need to add some additional trackers. These trackers can be created through the API for the already created projects, which is fine. But there was no option to organize these trackers, and all the trackers were created at the end of the list as a flat list, and administrators had to go into every project, manually rearrange them, which again takes some time. The solution again is API endpoints. One endpoint enables the user to create the folders, which was not possible previously, and the other endpoint enables the administrators to rearrange the trackers, put them into folders, or establish parent-child relationship between the actual trackers from a visualization perspective. And a key functionality in Codebeamer is working sets. Working sets can, and this is the working set definition in the Codebeamer knowledge base, working sets can be used to implement different use cases that are based on the assumption that work on the same specifications happening in multiple potentially parallel streams. For example, phase development, feature-driven development, maintenance releases, product line or variant management. It is important to mention that if someone uses a previous Codebeamer version, they might see a branching function. Working sets replace the branching feature in Codebeamer starting with version 21.09. 21.04 as an experimental feature, and in 21.09 it was a fully released functionality. The challenge here from a reporting perspective is that the API level functionality to work with working sets, especially data extraction, is challenging and a little bit limited. The data that we have to extract is necessary for enterprise reporting, and in this special use case, it was focusing on variants managed in Codebeamer, and they had to report. The customer was wanted to use this data in business intelligence. So the solution was here to create endpoints, different endpoints to address different reporting needs, or enabling the programmers to identify variants more easily, so they can then manage the existing data, change existing data using other existing API endpoints and scripts. So both use cases can be addressed through these endpoints. And as you can see, we have some endpoints to retrieve this information that would be otherwise available only on the graphical user interface. Another tracker configuration related topic is the management of or configuration of trackers through the API. Currently, we don't have many options, unfortunately, out of the box, but this is changing. That's the good news. But in the meantime, we had some use cases that we had to address. Again, this leads us back a little bit to the template and inheritance concept, because the inheritance concept between trackers rolls out the changes made on the template tracker. But in many cases, multiple trackers have to be updated in multiple projects, even if we are talking about templates. In many, especially in the case of enterprise installations, customers have more than one templates and more than one template versions, and in many cases they have to update all of them. So we are literally talking about hundreds of trackers, and for one tracker it might only take 2 minutes, but if the time adds up basically, and we are talking about hours in the end. And the most dominant or prominent example for this need for maintenance is drop-down lists. And we were able to enable this management of drop-down lists called choice lists in Codebeamer by creating custom endpoints, where the first endpoint enables us to create choice lists, and the other one will enable us, or the other ones will enable us to manage the choice list values. And in this specific use case, the interesting thing is that the choice list definition is actually stored outside of Codebeamer in a file. You can imagine an Excel spreadsheet or a JSON file. And if the external source is updated, there is a script that picks up the updates, sends it to Codebeamer, and all the projects are updated in Codebeamer, which is very nice, because those who are responsible, quality team, for example, responsible for these values, they don't even have to touch Codebeamer. They just have to work with those tools that they are used to. So these are these endpoints. And the last endpoint, and we have some others, of course, but this is just a teaser. The last endpoint is related to monitoring. We need to enable, especially in case of enterprise level installations, we need to be able to analyze trends and determine if the number of available licenses is sufficient. The system admin menu in Codebeamer displays this information, but as you can imagine, it's not a viable solution for someone to go into Codebeamer every hour, take the number, write it down somewhere, and then do the trend analysis. So for this purpose, we have created an endpoint that returns a simple integer value with the number of active users, but based on this simple value, the IT monitoring system is able to create is able to enable the right user groups to perform trend analysis, and in case it's necessary, they can extend the license pool. The next topic is checklist reviews. In the automotive industry, it's an extremely dominant use case. We have various workarounds, and we have a dedicated solution called the Review Hub. We will start with that. The Review Hub, as I mentioned, is a dedicated review tool. It provides extremely good collaboration capabilities, so reviewers can discuss different requirements or work products. In the Review Hub, everything is documented. There is a special license that they can use or that you can assign to users who only need to perform reviews. Unfortunately, there are some cons. There is no ability to create checklists. Workflow automation is very limited, so you cannot really create automatically Review Hub reviews. You can only define conditions for the workflow, so the item has to go through a review. The comments captured in the review are not visible on the artifact itself. This will change in the future, but currently it's not visible, meaning that the author has to go into the in the review and to understand why, for example, a requirement has to be or was rejected. And in older Codebeamer versions, but it has been fixed since a couple Codebeamer versions ago, the workflow was something that the moderator was able to override. For example, a new item can be immediately accepted as they were setting the outcome statuses, which is not good. Of course, it's not complying with the processes. Then we have it's an actual workaround now, review and audit checklists stored as test cases and test steps. The list of questions is usually fixed, so they can be reused, basically. And in this case, the test case stores the checklist entries as test steps. The con here is the lack of workflow automation. The execution cannot be automated, and the naming convention is test management related. And as you can imagine, that's a little bit misleading sometimes. The other workaround is using checklists as wiki text fields, which is basically a free text field with a table. The pro here is that it's highly configurable. It enables workflow automation. The con is that the maintenance of questions is not that simple because in the workflow configuration, it is stored in a markup code, and that has to be maintained. Because it's a text-based answer, even in case of yes, no responses, we cannot really limit the input coming from the reviewers. And then the last workaround is using the requirement library, which is a great tool for reuse capabilities, for reuse purposes. And in this case, the checklist entries are created as separate work items, which we can then reuse using the requirement library. The pro is that it's highly configurable from the workflow perspective. The con is that it's actually high effort because they have to manually reuse the checklists every time they have to perform a review. And as you can imagine, especially in ASPICE, there are reviews performed very frequently, even on a daily basis, very frequently. There is no workflow automation available, and as a result, it can be hard to use. Our solution for this is to stick with the previous workaround and automate the manual steps. Using the previous concept, we created a script which can be actually used out of the box. Any script can be, Groovy and JavaScripts can be executed through workflow automation. That's an out-of-the-box functionality. That's what we are taking advantage of here. The checklist is stored in the library with tags, so we can identify them in scripting. And in the development project, as we create based on a template, as we start a new review in a dedicated tracker, the checklist values are going to be carried over automatically, so we don't have to do this manually. Even the review creation can be automated through out-of-the-box workflow automation. And this, as we are executing a state transition, this is what you can see here. We are executing the create checklist Groovy script, which was created by Nanga Systems, but everything else is out of the box available. And we can capture the necessary review-related attributes, and the documentation of the outcome is done through the status field and additional attributes, for example, justification. In case it's necessary, we can submit the findings in a dedicated tracker with full end-to-end traceability. For example, you can see here a snippet of the traceability where we have different requirements, related reviews, checklist, and findings, and this can be something that we use in reporting. Next use case is advanced document upload. Codebeamer, if enabled, Codebeamer offers some document management capabilities through a dedicated tracker type called document. The challenge here is that we can upload documents in mass, but only into one folder at a time. The folders have to be created manually, and if you want to reorganize them, then it has to be done item by item. The solution for this was a Java application that enables us to select the root folder, and it uploads every subfolder and every file in the subfolder into Codebeamer, creating the folders and recreating the hierarchy that we have on our local machine, for example, or on SharePoint. And then this is what we can reuse directly or upload into Codebeamer with a few clicks. So as you can imagine, from a document manager perspective, this saves quite a lot of time. And the last one is test automation, upload of automated test results, to be precise. The challenge here is that out-of-the-box Codebeamer supports uploading XUnit XML test results via command line, and there is a open source Jenkins plugin available for it, but this supports basic use cases with certain XML formats, or we can use the REST and Swagger APIs. However, the thing is here that customers rarely know what to do or what to do with the endpoints in the very beginning. The solution is a customly developed Java-based application that satisfies the customer requirements. It enables CI/CD. The use case is very much automotive specific because they are using Tracetonic ACU test. The expectation is that the HTML reports are uploaded, but we are using the XML report to parse the information. The test cases are stored in Codebeamer. They are exported into ECU test, and currently they are manually recreating the results in Codebeamer. The automation uploads these results directly into Codebeamer. It is used through Jenkins. And maybe as a next release, we can even automate the test case import from Codebeamer to ECU test. And basically, the XML stores the results. The HTML stores the results as well, but in a more human-readable format. The application compresses it and uploads it into Codebeamer. We need to capture a few parameters in command line or in Jenkins, and the result is a test run created in Codebeamer where the HTML report is uploaded as an attachment. And that's pretty much it from the presentation of the solutions perspective.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Laszlo and Lars, for sharing these interesting use cases on Codebeamer. So as I said, now over to the Q&A, and any questions you might have in the audience. If you want to raise your hand or speak up, please do that. I received one question actually here earlier, and that was regarding, do actually customer APIs or customer solutions in general require any kind of maintenance or once they are deployed, will they be compatible for any kind of, I mean, new releases? I mean, how does it work?
Especially in case of custom APIs, because those are very heavily rely on the data model, they need to be tested for every release, even service specs, because the data model might change, and they might not be the endpoints might not be compatible with the new data model anymore. So it's a good practice to test every release candidate they want to roll out. Of course, it's not happening every other week, so it's kind of a low effort thing, and Nanga Systems can take care of it. In case of custom external solutions, sure, it doesn't hurt if we test it, but usually we are using API endpoints, which means that they remain compatible with the custom solutions. If there is a big change in the Swagger API, we see that in the release notes anyway, and just a few tests have to be executed, or we just have to adjust the script a little bit.
Thanks. One other question was regarding the cost of, I mean, implementing a customer developed solution. I mean, could you elaborate a little bit on that, or?
Sure. So, of course, we have an hourly rate, but each project is a little bit different. So it's hard to give an estimation in the beginning. There are some overlaps, of course, in case of some use cases, for example, widget development, which we also do. What we do or how it works is we discuss the requirements or the use case, then we create a detailed documentation of our understanding, basically as a kind of a technical documentation. If approved by the customer that, yes, this is what we want you to do, then we give the customers an estimation. And then basically, if the estimation is accepted, then we can start working together on the actual implementation.
Yeah, thank you. Just to summarize, what would you say are the biggest benefits or advantages by using Codebeamer?
The biggest benefits, I would say that even in complex use cases such as ISO 26262 and ASPICE in case of automotive, and there are many standards out there, of course, even in automotive and in other industries, the biggest benefit is the flexibility and how well these processes can be implemented in Codebeamer. And the biggest benefit here is that the system basically, once it's configured, once the project is configured, Codebeamer walks the users through the process. So they cannot really make mistakes if everything is configured properly. Everyone can do what they are supposed to do. And yeah, it's a central source of truth if you set it up that way. So it enables reporting across the board. And I think another important thing to mention here that since history or release history or versioning is key in many use cases, especially in ASPICE, to keep track of changes. Codebeamer does that for you automatically. You don't really have to worry about it. It's built on top of a relational database. And this brings a lot of added benefits with it.
Maybe one more comment from my side, Torbjörn. Since I've been with MKS and PTC for a long time, I think usability is a topic that always popped up in discussions when it came to windshield RVNS. I mean, it's my history. So that's really a benefit of Codebeamer. So we see customers going live with very little support and then jumping into productive environments, and that's very beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, thanks. And time is unfortunately running out, so many thanks everyone for joining, and of course a special thanks to you, Laszlo and Lars. So hope to see you back already next week on the PTC talks about how the company IdeaForge, being a drone factory, is overcoming the top 3 challenges on product design by using PTC products. So also, I mean, a quick reminder about, I mean, the PTC LiveWorks event taking place mid of May in Boston for those of you who haven't, I mean, registered or noticed that before. It's a lot of, I mean, people coming in from all over the world, I mean, being there, I mean, both customers and partners. So please, I mean, have a look at that. So with that, I wish you all a fantastic weekend. So see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You.